Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. I'm super excited about this video because this video kicks off my new series I'm hoping to continue in, which is bookish crafts. Now, I am not at all artistic. My sister is the artist in the family, but I can craft. So my idea for this series is to find bookish or book fandom related crafts and recreate them myself. So for this first installment, my goal is to recreate the Percy Jackson Camp Half-Blood clay bead necklaces. I'll pop some photo examples and link a couple Etsy shops down below. A lot of people do sell these, which is super cool. I'm not going to be selling any of these crafts. I'm just going to be doing it for fun because I think it's cool. So yesterday I went to Michael's and got some of the supplies I needed. Cut to that footage. So I'm gonna make this quick because it's hot and I want to turn my AC on, but I just got out of Michael's and I thought I'd just go through some of the stuff that I got. I got my Sculpey Primo oven baked clay for the little beads. I just grabbed this little tiny paintbrush because I wasn't sure if the ones I had at home, I wasn't sure if I had like a really tiny one. So now I know that I do, just in case. It was only like $2. And I got the necklaces I'm going to be using. I was gonna get like just regular cord, then I was wondering if I was just gonna like tie it in a knot at the end or if I was gonna get like actual like clasps like this. So I just figured this was easier. It's a set of 3. It has the little clasps on the end. It's kind of like a satin ribbon cord. It's not like a leather cord or anything, but it should work just fine for this project. And the only paint color I didn't have that I need is black, so I just picked up a little black thing. Also, just for fun, I got a paint by number. Very exciting. So I'll also have more paint colors and brushes in here, so that's fun. And then, just a little sneak peek at one of my next projects, I got these little signs. And I'm very excited that I found these little signs because the ones that they usually have, they're either like super huge and I don't want them to be huge. So I thought when I saw these that these could be perfect for what I have in mind. No spoilers yet. This shopping center is surprisingly busy for a Wednesday afternoon. Okay, it's too hot. I can't take it anymore, but also in this shopping center, there is a Barnes & Noble. So we're gonna pop on over there and see if we find anything fun. And then today I got started on making the beads. So for this project, I decided to use this Sculpey Primo white oven baked clay. From the online research I did, it seemed like this would hold up really well for the project and what I had in mind. I first started by tearing off little chunks and trying to form them into little spheres. I tried to keep them all the same size. I think it was about like 1 inch across. I just eyeballed it. I wasn't being super precise. I did make the beads a little bigger than they needed to be. That was just so I could have an easier time when painting them. As you can see, if I felt a bead was too big or too small, I would just tear off a little chunk and reform it to fit like the others. I didn't want anything to be too big and glaringly obvious that it kind of made the necklace look weird. From clay spheres into beads, I used a toothpick to slowly poke a hole through the bead to form the little opening that the necklace string would go through. And to make it big enough for the necklace to fit through, I kind of just wiggled the toothpick around a little bit, pushing towards the outsides, which opened up the gap a little bit, which made the hole big enough for the necklace string to go through. And then I repeated this process on every single bead. And once I was done with that, I followed the instructions on the outside of the clay package and put them in the oven to bake and solidify. So I have my little beads made now. I'm just kind of waiting for them to fully dry, and then we're gonna get started. My goal is to do Percy's necklace for now, and if I don't mess up the extra beads that I made, I will try and continue to include Annabeth's necklace as well. We'll see how this goes. I'm super excited. I did make these beads a little bigger than they probably needed to be. One, so I could make a hole big enough for the necklaces that I bought for them to go through, and two, because I have big clumsy fingers. My fingers shake like there's nobody's business, so I figured if I made the beads a little bit bigger, it would be easier for me to paint some of the smaller designs. So while we're waiting for those to dry, I'm going to continue setting up my work area. So this is my big tub of paint and painting supplies. This is all acrylic paint, and I have plenty of paintbrushes. I've got some sponges, sandpaper, and of course the little paint palettes. And of course I have every color I could possibly need except for the black that I showed you I bought yesterday. For some reason I had every color except black, of course. So I'm going to go through these and pick out some colors that I think I will need. I'm going to start with Percy's first bead, the black bead with the bluish green trident. I of course have my black, and I'll just have to try and find a blue-green that I like. I have some metallics, I have some lighter ones that I can mix a little bit. I'm not super sure, but once I get my area set up, I will come back and show you what we're working with. So to start, instead of just focusing on one bead, I decided to paint all of the base colors for the 4 main beads I was working on. The first is the black for the trident bead, then I did just a plain white for the golden fleece bead, and for the labyrinth bead I used a silver. This was very sheer and hard to get the full opacity of the silver. It did take quite a while. Most of these needed multiple coats, but the silver was definitely the hardest. And for the Empire State Building bead, I just used this pale blue. And then after I was done with the first coat, I just went back in and touched up what I needed to. The white and the black were pretty good. There were just some spots that needed to be touched up. The others, I really packed the color on there. So the first bead I worked on was the trident bead. I had already had the black base coat painted, and I just quickly sketched a little trident design that I could go over with the paint. For the actual trident, I had this really cool shimmery bluish teal color that just went really nicely over the black. It was very opaque and I only needed like 1 or 2 coats. And this is what the bead ended up looking like. The second bead was the golden fleece bead. This one was definitely more complicated. I kind of used a mixture of some gold and yellow to make the golden fleece color. I didn't really want it to be just straight up gold. For this one, I had sketched out like a little sheep shape that I would be following, and I just filled it in with that golden mixture that I had created. And for this one, I decided I would outline it and put the little details in with a pen instead of paint. I did not have a paintbrush that was small enough to get those fine details, and I just thought my control would be better with the pen, and it ended up working really well. I just used this Pilot G2 pen. They're great, and it was very easy to get done what I wanted it to. It actually went on a lot easier than I thought it was, so it was very helpful to have that tool. And I just outlined the sheep and kind of put his little horn in and some ruffles in his coat and the little feet. These are definitely not perfect, but given the fact that I can't draw and this was on like an inch sized bead, I was pretty happy with how it came out. These are what the two finished products look like together. The third bead was the Labyrinth Maze bead. This one was actually a lot of fun to work on. I mixed up this kind of shimmery light blue color to go over the silver. This one I pretty much did freehand. I had that reference picture that I just had popped up on the screen sitting in front of me, but it was really cool to kind of do this freehand, and once I had one done, the second was definitely a lot easier. The fine details of this made it very challenging but fun at the same time. I kind of just tried to do like a simple maze shape, nothing too complicated. I just slowly took it section by section, making the little lines throughout it and building off of the center. And then once I was done painting the maze, I went in with some of the silver and kind of touched it up a little just to fix any mistakes. If I made something too big or needed to correct something, I went over it with the silver and then kind of just made fine touch-ups from there, alternating between the silver and the blue. Overall, this bead was really fun to work on, and I was very happy with how it came out. The fourth and last bead on Percy's necklace is the Empire State Building bead. It's supposed to be the Empire State Building with all of the names of those who died kind of inscribed on it. This bead surprisingly gave me the hardest time. I could not get a building shape that I liked down. It took me so many tries. At first I was doing it too much like a house, and then I kind of kept flipping through some of the previous bead reference pictures, and it just took me forever to figure out something that I liked. But after I did, I outlined the entire thing with black and then used that black pen again to make the little two buildings on the front at the bottom. And then just to create the windows, I just went in and did a bunch of white dots. Very simple, but took me way too long and way too many tries. And these were the best two results of the Empire State Building bead that I came up with. These are all 4 beads. I made 2 of each so I can have one for 2 necklaces, and this is what they ended up looking like. And to kind of finish everything off, seal everything in, make sure none of the paint would chip, I used some of this Mod Podge that I borrowed from my sister and just put a little coat on each of the beads. This is a glossy finish Mod Podge, so it made the beads kind of shiny and glossy, like it had like a clear lacquer coating when they ended up drying. that's the look that kind of came out of it. When I got to the final two beads, the golden fleece bead, I had a bit of a problem. I didn't even consider that using that pen would have an effect on whether the Mod Podge would go over it well. I kind of think I just assumed it would. It did not. It smudged a lot. I just fixed the outside of it, cleaned up the white, and it was fine after that, and I just didn't coat that bead at all. Once they all dried, I got my little necklace out. I took off that little chain at the end so I could get the beads on easier. I put it back on so I could clasp it, but to get the beads on, it wouldn't have worked with that little chain section. So I just strung the 4 beads on for Percy's necklace. They went on super easy, didn't have to worry about any of them fitting through. And as you can see, they have kind of a glossy sheen to them a little bit, and this is what the 4 of them look like together. I was really happy with the finished product. I thought it came out really well, and I was super excited to have finished it. And because I had some left over, I decided to make a couple extra beads so I could kind of fill out Annabeth's necklace. As you can see, I made Talia's pine tree, the Centaur in a Prom's dress, and the burning ship. I also created one for the 3rd book in the series, The Titan's Curse. Since that book didn't actually get a bead since it was over the winter break, I kind of just made it the Hunters of Artemis inspired and tried to put a couple little stars in the background there. But I was super happy with how this one came out. I think it looks so cool with all of the beads, and I was really happy to have kind of one for Annabeth and one for Percy. As you can see, these are the 3 extra beads that I made for Annabeth's necklace. Those are the ones that we know about. And overall, I was really excited to see the finished product. Threw on an orange shirt to really get the vibe, and I thought it looked really nice. So as you can see, I finished the necklace. I put on my only orange shirt to channel my Camp Half-Blood, pretend that this isn't there, and let's pretend that it says Camp Half-Blood. This is Percy's necklace. This is what I was originally going for, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. And then, as you probably saw, I made a lot of doubles of beads, and I made another one. This is Annabeth's / an extra bead, and I'm really happy with how these turned out. I was very scared to see how some of the earlier ones would turn out, but I'm overall really happy with this product as well. And this was a super fun craft to do. It took up quite a bit of time. It took me a while, but I'm really happy that I did it. It was relatively easy to do. The only difficult part came when I messed up painting and I had to retouch it or go over it or start over, but everything else was pretty easy. It was lots of fun. It was an inexpensive project to make, considering I had most of the supplies that I needed. Hope you guys enjoyed the first installment of Bookish Crafts. I'm already started on the next one, so hopefully that'll come out soon. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you in the next one. Bye!